In 2020, with the entire world being stuck at home, binge-watching their comfort shows, and Netflix re-edition to it in the US, Avatar The Last Airbender gained a lot of traction again, reigniting old and new fans to engage around the show, which led to a resurgence of activity. And this activity managed the creation of Avatar Studios, with the new season, comic books, etc., plus a Netflix movie live-action adaptation all in progress. Right before it even got to Netflix US, my friend Lily got into it from the UK. And got me hooked up as well. And you know when you see something and recognize the unmistakable sense of untapped potential? That's what happened when we saw Firelord Sozin. Especially him and Avatar Roku. You might need a refresher on the Avatar and The Firelord because you haven't watched it in a while, and because the episode is pretty much just randomly sprinkled on there as a filler episode on season 3, even though it has one of the most quoted scenes in the show.
Do you really think friendships can last more than one lifetime?
Ooh, yes it can. Look, Korra is super best friends with Zuko and Toph. Totally in the same degree Aang and Roku were with Gyatso. Totally at that margin. To me, the episode gets really glossed over, so let's recap. One random-ass night, Avatar Roku's spirit decides that for some reason tonight is the perfect time to take Aang on a spirit trip and show him his life story, with the purpose of teaching him the lessons he learned throughout his life. At the same time, Iroh tells Zuko to look for Firelord Sozin's scriptures and learn his story. So the story of the Avatar and the Firelord is told simultaneously by their two perspectives. He starts with his close friendship with Prince Sozen, and his clumsiness, his crush on this random girl, and his announcement as the Avatar on his and Sozin's 16th birthday, because they were both born on the same day. After saying goodbye to Sozen, he embarks on his Avatar adventure and visits the air nomads, befriending a very young Gyatso. Later goes training waterbending on the Northern Water Tribe, and lastly masters earthbending by training with Sud. With that, it makes 4 elements and he is a fully fledged powerful avatar, shown by this scene, which I wish it was given more attention because it makes me emotional every time. After his 12-year-long training, he goes back to the Fire Nation and encounters Sozen, now Firelord, but still his good friend. He then marries this random girl because reasons, and the same day, Sozen proposes to him that they join forces and take over the world together. Roku declines because that would bring imbalance to the world and leaves. Later on, Roku notices Sozen went ahead with his plans anyway and spanks his ass a few times to get him to stop. And it does. Years later, when they're both old, the volcano Roku lives around activates and makes a giant explosion. Sozen feels this from his palace and rushes over to help the villagers. They manage to save all of them, but Roku is debilitated. Sozen realizes that if the Avatar is gone, he has no one to spank his ass if he does evil shit, so he leaves his friend to die. And then Aang is born. Also, Iroh reveals both Sozen and Roku are Zuko's great-grandparents, so he's got that going for him. And that's the episode. What we know afterwards is Sozen went looking for the Avatar to, I don't know, kill him? To keep him captive? Which is weird because if he killed the Avatar, it would just respawn somewhere on the Water Tribe, so... Still, he committed mass genocide on the air nomads. Zam Kong, this Sozen sure sounds like a terrible person. How could you ever fix him? That's my secret, Cap. I'm not fixing him as a person. I'm fixing him as a character. That's right. This is a headcanon video. What I said on the recap was pretty much all we know about Sozen. There's really not much there, he's a blank canvas. It surprises me since the Avatar franchise is known for writing incredible and complex villains who have reasoning behind their beliefs and actions, but are still held accountable since their means aren't justified. So how do we begin writing Sozen based on what we have? One of the main elements of a character is their motivation. Hell, it's the main one. Their motivations are what make them act and therefore make them a character. For me, I think there are 2 main things that could save Sozen as a character. Daddy issues and homosexuality. Oh yeah baby, we're going there. There are many details on Roku and Sozen's stories that are sprinkled on the show that stay hanging on the air like dust, not really contributing to anything. So let's grab some of those and thread it into this man in a way that can contribute to the plot. We know nothing about Sozin's family. We know that he has a father that is absent simply because of one line.
Something happened to my father?
So let's build around that. The current Firelord, Sozin's father, the single characteristic that most royal fire people in the series share, is a hunger for power, so it wouldn't be surprising that Sozin's father is as well. The information that Sozin and Roku were born on the exact same day gets thrown in there for no real reason. It serves nothing to the plot other than that one celebration day and, I guess, strengthening their bond or finding an excuse for them to be friends. But it's too convenient. What if, better, right after Avatar Kyoshi's death, the Firelord was hopeful his newborn son would be the next Avatar. Imagine. A Firelord who is also the Avatar. That's an insane amount of power. But after the tests run, turns out Sozin is not the Avatar, but this other kid, born on the same day, maybe to a lower class family, we don't know much about Roku's family either, so let's take that creative liberty. The Firelord offers Roku's family physical and financial security as long as Roku grows alongside Sozin, hoping being around the Avatar will make him more stronger or something. Okay, but what if the parents never knew? What if the tests are run and the result is kept a secret by the Fire Sages? Well, that's a good question. Let's fix it with, these two babies get along well and the Firelord decides to make them friends anyway. Or maybe the mom goes to the test, I don't know. So this kid, Sozin, Prince of the Fire Nation and heir to the throne. Possible Avatar with a power-hungry father. This is a recipe for a child with big expectations put on him. Sozen being under pressure to be the best firebender in the world is huge. His father would wish him to surpass him, would undergo extensive training and would be meticulously educated, to find pride in his position and honor in his family, and to give everything of himself to be worthy of being part of the royal family. Of course, Sozen wants nothing but to make his father happy, much like his great-grandson. Something about the children and craving their father's approval. It's no surprise that on his 16th birthday, when he sees the Fire Sages, the first thing he asks about is his father. He is concerned. He cares. So that covers what would constitute as daddy issues. But what about the possibility of him being gay? In my opinion, male-on-male relationships are often overlooked or ignored, especially on animated media. The only gay couple I can think of in an animated kids show is both dads in She-Ra, tertiary characters. Meanwhile, on the front lines we've got Lumity, Kurosami, Kyoshi and Rangi, the entirety of She-Ra. We've got animated sapphics for the entire winter. But when it comes to canon MLM couples in this show, I guess Bolin got confirmed as bi years after the show ended, while never once even alluding to the fact that he might be during it. We don't talk about Voltron, and I don't think there's an MLM couple in the Owl House other than Willow's dads. Again, tertiary characters. We know everyone in She-Ra is queer, but we don't get scenes like these between two men. Again, other than Bo's dads. Hell, Steven Universe has more sapphic relationships than straight ones, and the only MLM one we get is a very subtle implication that Mr. Smiley and Mr. Frowny were a couple once a long time ago. My knowledge on animated kids/teen shows may be narrow, I'm not sure, but in my eyes, romantic relationships between two men are often thrown in the shadows, or in the details, as if it would be something wrong to show even to teens. Two men holding hands or kissing, showing romantic affection for each other. So to me, Sozen being gay would not only help his and Roku's characters, but also help in some way to develop gay couples in animated media. Sozen being gay and in love with Roku makes sense. It's the perfect childhood friends to lovers dynamic. He's the friend who's always by his side, that he wants to impress and spars with him constantly. Him being an only child with a desire to become the best also comes into play. He is better than Roku. He may be shorter, but he is certainly stronger and a better bender. Roku is clumsy and goofy, certainly a good bender, but still loves to fuck around. This idea of Sozin pining on Roku has been popular or semi-popular ever since the episode came out. It's not easy to miss the chemistry between them. My favorite scene from this episode is the headpiece scene. After being announced as the Avatar, Roku is required to leave the Fire Nation and train with the Air Nomads, leaving behind everything, including his earthly belongings and Sozen. Sozen tries cheering him up because he's adorable, but it's no use. Instead, he offers him his headpiece, a precious royal artifact that signifies his status as prince, to take with him. And Roku does, even in his afterlife. You look me in the eyes and tell me this is not supposed to mirror a marriage proposal. You guys know how in Japan and other Asian countries people don't say, "Will you marry me?" and instead make a grandiose statement that expresses the desire to stay together for the rest of time? This is it. But Connie, they're 16. I do not care. Sozen is essentially saying, you are my prince. Fuck the nomads and the rules, because I want to be with you every step of the way, every moment of your trip. I want to be by your side. And Roku agrees, even in the afterlife. Now this is cinema. So I am convinced Sozen being gay is a completely plausible and logical take on this character. But what about Roku? I feel like this can be taken different ways. 1. Roku is straight, and Sozen has unrequited love. Roku crushes on Taemin and Sozen is forced to watch and be supportive. This would only enhance feelings of anger, rejection, and resentment, going towards, his sadly canonical homophobia. 2. Roku is bi, and they messed around, effectively making them lovers, and the relationship much stronger. Both ideas have their benefits plot-wise. The first one justifies more Sozin's anger towards the Avatar to the point of genocide and his fucking homophobia. The second one justifies more Roku sparing Sozen instead of killing him, since he was his lover, shutting up all the Roku haters who can't understand why someone wouldn't murder their best friend. Now, with Roku on his trip and out of the picture, Sozen is alone to continue his journey to becoming the Firelord. The overall message of the episode is creating sympathy towards the Fire Nation despite its war crimes, since Aang is a pacifist and doesn't want to bring more death, including Ozai's. The way this is done is showing Roku, while being from the Fire Nation, he was a goofy, clumsy child once, and during his youth experienced kindness and expanded his knowledge about the world by traveling around it during his Avatar training. As Iroh said, you need to gather your wisdom from different sources, if not it becomes rigid and stale. That is how he became a merciful and diligent Avatar. Sozen, on the other hand, did not have this. With the closest person to him now being gone, he is alone in his palace, with nothing but what his father taught him, his status as a royal, and nothing but time on his hands to become as powerful as he can for his family and his people. His duty is to rule, protect, and do what is necessary to keep his nation happy and prosperous. But this toll gets heavier. With Sozen's crush on Roku, someone he had considered the love of his life, suddenly out of the picture, taken away from him, plus the disappointment of a father. Let's say he didn't know if Sozen was the Avatar or not. That's right. After Roku leaves, his father says, "He is the Avatar, and not you." As if it was his own fault he was born that way. Even if he's stronger than Roku at the time, he is not the Avatar, and in his father's eyes, that's his fault. Sozen is forced to stay in the Fire Nation, in his castle, alone, with nothing but his father's wishes and his lover's absence. Around 12 years later, when they are both 28, Roku returns to the Fire Nation as a fully fledged Avatar and reunites with Sozen. At some point, and for some reason that isn't shown because these characters get nothing more than 20 fucking minutes to tell their entire story, Roku marries Taemin. In my mind, Taemin actually wanted to date Sozen because of his royal status, and because every time she looks over and blushes at supposedly Roku, Sozen is right next to him, and Sozen never noticed because he is a raging homosexual. I mean, come on, look at this beefcake. But she ended up marrying Roku because Avatar is higher title than the Firelord. Now we go to other of my favorite scenes, where Sozen literally takes Roku away from Taemin and goes to the roof together to, totally not kiss. Here comes the second marriage proposal parallel, made literally on Roku's wedding. Sozen is confident his confidant is back, and asks him to expand the Fire Nation's wealth and power with him, and to rule by his side, just the two of them, like it was before. Roku immediately recognizes ill intent on Sozen's proposal, and refuses. He's not the Sozen he remembers, but he has no intention of hurting him either. This man just had his lover marry another person, and reject him altogether just in one day. It's implied Roku didn't talk to him again, so there it is, alone again, with his anger, resentment, and rejection. You can see where I'm going by rewriting Sozin as this neglected but spoiled child. He may have had everything as a royal child, but never the things he truly wanted: acknowledgement from his father and love from his best friend. By having a young boy strive for perfection to gain his father's approval, you get a power-hungry man rebelling and trying to one-up the men who rejected his feelings. He keeps going and goes against Roku's wishes. It's not like he didn't betray him before, right? Roku later stops this and gives his final warning: if he wants to live, he better stop. This action is usually frowned upon by many fans, usually Kyoshi enthusiasts, who believe Roku should have murdered him then and there, preventing the genocide, but Roku chooses to spare him, because that's his best friend, and maybe even his former lover. And no one more than Aang knows that taking a life like that is not easy. What many people look over is that this warning actually worked. Sozin stopped his advances and laid low. As long as Roku was around, he understood this was failure. Let's also add that Sozin didn't try to kill Roku in the decades after that encounter. He knew he was below him. Even in their last encounter, when the volcano erupts, strong enough to be noticed by Sozin, who was miles away, he went over to help his friend and his people. As old and decrepit he might have been, he fought along his friend one last time. But it took Roku being helpless and defeated for him to realize,
without you, all my plans are suddenly possible,
and leave him to die. If I am not mistaken, Avatar Studios decided in one way or another to give Sozen a sister out of nowhere, throwing off the Avatar and the Firelord episode. In this video, I presented a way to write over a blank canvas of a character with details we already had in order to make it make sense, give depth and meaning to him without disrupting the story in any way, instead of carelessly shoving a character in. If you ask me, that's lazy writing. It just is. I don't want people to think I or we made Sozen gay because of any kind of fetishization. God no. Number 1, I don't think there are any MLM couples in the Avatar series, and 2, Sozen's homosexuality and upbringing complement his character in order to serve the plot. We explained Roku's merciful behavior, Sozen's homophobia, strengthened their relationship, fortified the message of the episode, which is being born and raised in a certain place doesn't make you inherently evil, and gave some needed queer rep. We know how much producers love throwing in random queer characters for progressive points, so this concludes this rewriting of Sozen. That might as well be an overwriting, since we didn't really delete any of his actual character, we just added more onto it to give him depth, because he's a sweetheart and a softie who just got corrupted by hatred, isolation and rejection. See, Avatar Studios? See how easy it is to fix a character without adding unnecessary ones, while also giving you queer rep points you crave so much? How about you conform to the shit ton of lesbian couples you already have, and give the gays one fucking couple? My friends and I have been marinating this character for about 3 years, so if you want to agree with us, like the video. And if you disagree, you're wrong, and also tell me why, and allow me to disagree with you. I hope you enjoyed this this video essay, and I hope I got my point across. I could have made this way more emotional and have more of a structure, but I'm not used to these kinds of videos. If you think I did well, again, leave a like and let me know what you think. I hope I managed to convince you. Alright, have a nice day!